Was the 2024 Paris Olympics opening ceremony a mockery of the Last Supper of Jesus Christ before his crucifixion, or was it actually the feast of Dionysus, like what all the warriors of misinformation seem to be saying? If you look in the comments of any social media post discussing this topic, you're going to see a bunch of people saying that this was not the Last Supper, but it was actually the feast of Dionysus. It's not the Last Supper. The world doesn't revolve around Christianity. It's not the Last Supper, buddy. It's a famous Greek picture called the Feast of Dionysus. Get a grip. Depicting Feast of Dionysus, buddy. Calm down. Stop spreading misinformation. This was the Feast of Dionysus. It seems that the factually correct consensus now is that what we saw with our own eyes to be a mockery of Christianity was actually just the Feast of Dionysus, and that we were all just misinformed. Here we have self-proclaimed fact-checkers explaining why the Olympics opening ceremony was actually the Feast of Dionysus. If you guys don't know, the Olympics originally came out from ancient Greece, and the Feast of Dionysus was a festival in ancient Greece that involved the Greek gods, including Dionysus. And here we have the New York Times, a source that definitely produces the realest news, and they say that the event's organizers and planners have completely denied that this was inspired by the Last Supper. So let's keep that in mind, because I'm going to come back to that later. But here we have The Guardian, another source of real news, saying that the Olympics opening ceremony was actually based on the painting of Greek gods and not the painting of the Last Supper, according to art experts. Actually, in this article, if you guys don't know, the director of the opening ceremony, his name is Thomas Jolly. This is what he looks like. He says that the intention was to have a big pagan party linked to the gods of Olympus, and the intention was not to mock anything at all. And all he wanted was a ceremony that repairs and reconciles. So I really wonder what groups specifically he is trying to reconcile. And in this part of the article, it goes further to explain all the Greek gods of Olympus that were present in the ceremony. We have Apollo, the god of the sun, Dionysus, the blue guy in the middle with the grapes, Poseidon, Artemis, Venus, all of the gods that were there. And Thomas Jolly then says that it was pretty clear, actually, that it was not the Last Supper. So keep that in mind. And then in this article, it also says that there's absolutely no question that this opening ceremony was an insult to Christians. So all of us saw with our own eyes what we thought to be the opening ceremony, but I guess that we were all just completely dumb, because there's absolutely no question that this was an insult to Christians. No question at all. But I do want to get a little bit deeper into that. So here we have Damien Gabriak, who worked alongside Thomas Jolly. He was an author and playwright of the opening ceremony. And here, in an interview by France International, he actually doesn't deny at all that this was a painting of the Last Supper. So here's the interview.
Il y a un autre tableau, c'est la Seine, C-E-N-E, sur un pont, avec des queers. Ça aussi, c'est du vivre ensemble, Damien ?
Bah absolument. Enfin, en plus, vous dites il y a des queers, mais oui, les queers, mais il y a tout ce qu'est la France, tout le monde ensemble, des petits, des grands, des gros, des maigres, des noirs, des blancs, des arabes, dans des costumes tous différents et tous ensemble sur la même playlist dansent leur danse de leur culture. Il y a des.
If you guys don't know, this word in French means the Last Supper, and the interviewer calls the event the Last Supper, and Damien Gabriak doesn't deny that at all. He just keeps talking like it's already established that of course this is the Last Supper. But here we have the New York Times article from earlier saying that the event's planners and organizers have denied that it was inspired by the Last Supper. And we quite literally just saw an interviewer interview Damien Gabriak, and he did the opposite. So if you guys want any more proof that the news is fake, here it is. Another live example. The news is just a big propaganda machine that wants you to believe a certain narrative. And here we have one of the performers in the opening ceremony. I think his name is Peach. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but he also doesn't deny that the opening ceremony used the Last Supper. He actually calls it biblical representation. So he's admitting that this was the Last Supper. And here in an article by the La Croix, it says that Thomas Jolly said that the Last Supper was not his inspiration, but several performers have said the contrary. So the Guardian tells us that there's no question because this is so obvious that it's not the Last Supper, when even the performers of the opening ceremony have admitted that they believe that it was the Last Supper. And here we have Barbara Butch, who is the wide one, wearing blue in the middle. And she posts on her story a picture of the ceremony. And right below it, the famous painting of the Last Supper. And she writes in text calling it the Newgate Testament, which is a complete mockery, no question about it. And then she also says in her interview calling it an image of the Last Supper. And then all of a sudden, the narrative changed. This is no longer the feast of the apostles with Jesus Christ, but this was actually the feast of Dionysus. And Barbara Butch deleted her old story and posted a new story calling it the Feast of the Gods, which is the Feast of Dionysus. And what's funny is she actually filed a lawsuit, angry that people were spewing anti-Semitism, homophobia, sexism, all of those buzzwords, even though she just mocked Christianity, which is hilarious and completely ironic. And then we also have the official France TV calling it the Last Supper as well. And then France TV deletes their tweet when the narrative changes. So my question is, why did France TV delete their tweet? You know, what did they have to hide specifically? Or was it an order by the French government? Interestingly enough, we have a case where there is a group of people riding around in France with a bus saying, "Stop attacks on Christians," and they got a picture of the opening ceremony compared to Jesus Christ's Last Supper with the apostles before his crucifixion. And here they got arrested by the police. And here in this tweet it says that prosecutors and police were sent by Macron, who is the French president. And if you guys don't know, the French president allowed and approved all of the Olympics opening ceremony events to happen. And he sent police and prosecutors to arrest this group of 6 peaceful protesters and sent them to a jail cell without access to any water.
So as you can see, we've just been taken into the police van, where we're right now being taken. The whole citizen row team on the ground is going to be taken to the police office, to the police station, where they want to file a report. They found some kind of reason why we cannot have this van over here. We did everything within the rules. We asked if there was a need for permission. It seems like it's obviously about the message. It seems like it's an ideological attack against Citizen Go. So we'll keep you updated. We'll let you know what's happening right this moment as we're being taken away as criminals.
So then again, that begs the question, what do they have to hide? Why are they trying to actively suppress this information? And why is the news trying to gaslight us too with there's no question that this is not the Feast of Dionysus? And the reason for that is because every single detail is intentional. When you're working on an art project at the magnitude of the Olympics, every single detail is going to be intentional. I read this from a source, I don't know if it's completely true, but this project was estimated to have cost $8.2 billion to France to completely put together every single part of it. And I'm not exactly sure if this is completely accurate, but either way, this is an extremely, extremely expensive project. And with a project of this magnitude, every single element, every single thing that is included is 100% intentional. There are no accidents in anything that you see. For example, this guy with his nutsack out, in front of this little kid. That is 100% intentional. What else is intentional is the songs that they play and the imagery that they use. For example, right after all the countries are displayed, a performance of John Lennon's Imagine is played.
Imagine there's no countries.
So what does this song exactly mean? They didn't choose this song on accident because it sounded nice. They had an entire performance for it. They had an entire music video for it. They chose this song on purpose. So if you just read into the lyrics just a little bit, to me, from a Christian standpoint, it seems like the one world government or the new world order. I mean, the lyrics say, imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and there's no religion too. And what does it say in Revelation 13:7-8? It says, it was granted to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and authority was given to him over every tongue, tribe, and nation. All who dwell on earth will worship him, whose names have not yet been written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Now this verse is talking about the Antichrist, and the job of the Antichrist is to have complete authority over all of the nations in the world, complete globalist control. And what does it say in the song? It says there's no countries, which is globalism. They're all unified under this one world government, and there's nothing to kill or die for. So there's no wars, living life in peace. And what does the Bible say? It says in Revelation 13:3-4, and all the world marveled and followed the beast. So they worshiped the dragon, who gave authority to the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him? So that's a reference to the war line. And also in the song, in verse 1, which they didn't sing, it says, imagine there's no heaven, no hell below us, above us only sky. Revelation 13:6. Then he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and those who dwell in heaven. So it's pretty clear what they're referencing to. You might think I'm going a bit too deep, but I want to assure you guys that there is a reason they chose this song and not any other song. Not because this song sounds good, but because it's these small details, it's these things you kind of got to look a bit deeper for into these lyrics. Because another thing about these songs is that there is something in the lyrics, there's something in the music that has a message they're trying to send. And here we have another important piece of imagery. We have a mysterious figure riding on a silver horse, and it's walking across water here, and then it transitions to a white horse with the same rider on it, and all the countries are gathering behind it. And that sounds a lot like Revelation 6:8. So I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades followed him. And power was given to them over a fourth of the earth, to kill with the sword, hunger, and death, and by the beasts of the earth. And here it's pretty obvious, you got all the countries following the pale horse, acting like that he is their leader and the countries are his followers. And here is another important piece of imagery. If you look closely at the Olympics logo, there is a golden calf mounted on a base. And the golden calf is actually a pretty famous representation of idolatry. I mean, I don't think you even have to be Christian to recognize what this is. It was a golden calf that Aaron and the Israelites built while Moses was gathering the 10 Commandments from God. And throughout the Old Testament, the golden calf was frequently built by the Israelites when they left God and turned to false idols. And here in Exodus 32:35 it says, the Lord struck the people with a plague because of what they did with the calf which Aaron had made. So why does it matter if the Olympics opening ceremony was a mockery of the Last Supper of Jesus Christ, or if it was the Feast of Dionysus? Why is that so important? Well, the reason for that is because we have to recognize how easily this fake news, these media sources, this big propaganda machine gaslights us into not even believing our own eyes. I mean, without you even watching this video, when you first saw the Olympics opening ceremony, I'm sure that you automatically assumed that it was a mockery of the Last Supper. But then the news starts coming out purporting a certain narrative saying that this was actually the Feast of Dionysus, and there's no question about that. And, you know, it was extremely obvious, and saying that it was the Last Supper is just completely absurd. But as I've just shown you, all the news does is lie and push propaganda. The more asleep a population is, the more they can push under their nose without getting caught. Secondly, as Christians, we can't be conformed by the world, but we have to be transformed so we're able to prove what is good and have the discernment to distinguish what is good and what is evil. One of my favorite verses, Ephesians 5:11, states that we should have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. So if you guys like this video, drop a like, subscribe, comment, do all of that stuff. And I'm definitely going to be making more content in the future, so I'll see you guys around, and thanks for watching.